their actions match their words?
I think since most of the text is centered around Merlin, his motivations are more. It starts out with he follows everything. Isn't it Morgaine who's his or is it Mon? What did he call her?
Mom. Yeah.
That he originally starts following everything she says and goes with her will, but then once he starts coming up with his own free will and realizing he doesn't have to follow what he says, his motivations are more personal and center around more.
He just wants the girl.
Better things, or it centers around love and loyalty, because he also goes and he cares about his friends, and he's very loyal to King Arthur, and so that his motives change throughout the story.
It's just different girls.
How many girls does he go after? Is it just her?
No, it's the one at the beginning, because they don't really go over it in the movie, but there's one that Mob kills.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys remember that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that's the first one, and then Mob just wants Merlin to come on her side, and then if we talk about Merlin just wants to get with, what's the girl's name? Nimue?
Yeah.
Nimue, and he's like, I don't want any of that, and he's just doing whatever he wants, really.
I don't really think that he wants, I don't think she wants him to kind of join him. I think she just kind of wants to use him in order to, kind of use her, to show, this is what I do sort of thing. It's like a message.
Yeah, I can turn Merlin on you guys.
So in other words, I don't have to waste your time.
Yeah, and what do you guys think that, because Mom obviously didn't have to kill the girl or ruin his love to do this, do you think that maybe she did it because she didn't want him to be happy, or because she was jealous of his happiness, or what do you guys think?
I think, I don't know, I think she, almost, liked making him mad, or, torturing him to realize that, he should always be with her instead of, going against, I feel like she just did it for power, showing it, controlling, saying, oh, well, you're always gonna, have to rely on me, kind of, or something like that, because at first he kind of, listened to what everybody said, and then, he changed and, did everything, in his own way, because he changed his motives.
Yeah, and I think that she did it more as a, see, I can do whatever I want, and there's nothing you can do about it, sort of way, and an arrogance.
Yeah.
And I think a strange part of Mob knows Merlin's much stronger than her. Mm-hmm. Maybe not at the beginning of the story, but later in the story, she kind of has this, deep feeling and, almost arrogance about it.
It shows in the fight between them. He holds her off with ease, and then to the point where he can just turn his back on her and just be like, I don't even need to fight you. Yeah, I don't even need to fight you.
Kirk, what about you? What do you think about Mob, the bad guy, the girl?
Mob wants people to worship her.
You think that's why she was trying to control Merlin, and because she wanted? Do you think it's because he had power and she wanted to use his power, or do you think it was?
She wanted to use his power.
So that she could gain more power. But why do one of you guys think that she didn't just create someone else like Merlin? Because she created Merlin. Why didn't she just, after Merlin didn't follow her anymore, why did she try so hard to get him back and not just start over?
Well, it's possible that it's just very difficult to create a person with magical prowess. But at the same time, I think it's sort of like a pride thing. You can't leave me. I'm not going to let you leave me. You have to do this. I made you. So.
It's kind of like how you insulted her by basically saying, I'm not going to use magic. You gave me this gift that no other person can really do except for you and I. But I'm not going to use it unless you really push me. And that's why she's like, okay, now I figure out how to push your buttons by torturing the people you love.
Well, Kirk, what do you think about number 2, which is there something irrational, illogical, or conflicted about the way a character behaves?
Rick has magical powers, but Queen Mab is the source of his powers. He is a bad guy for most of the movie. He trains Merlin for when he is younger, but when Merlin doesn't join Queen Mab, he fights against Merlin. He uses his magical powers to influence Morgan Le Fay and her son, Mordred.
Do you think Mab was illogical or irrational? How so?
Queen Merlin used her powers to give Merlin his magical powers.
Do you think that's a right that anyone should have? Do you think anyone should be able to just create someone to work for them? Because it's not the same as parenthood. Like, because your parents always want what's best for you. But in Matt's case, she just wanted him for her own personal reasons. But do you think that is...
How exactly was she created?
I
Just
didn't see that.
poof and then.
I know she used like a natural, like she couldn't give
Yeah,
birth,
she used an actual mother, because he's half human. Merlin's half human.
So
They did
she
something
gave
with the mother.
birth to him? Or?
No,
Yeah.
another woman
So she
had a
like.
baby, but she did
Yeah.
something before he
Okay.
was born.
Kind of like the virgin birth, the Virgin Mary birth.
Got it. Okay.
If she just made him full God, basically, or basically what she is, I don't know what she is really. But if she made him full whatever.
He's like a Hercules.
Yeah, otherwise he'd easily take her. Like, obviously he easily took her in the beginning, like in the ending. But if she made him.
Yeah, she didn't want to make him too powerful. I understand.
Do you think that if Mab hadn't killed his first love and locked away Nimue, do you think that Merlin would have had his revenge, or do you think he just would have left that as their problem and not done anything?
So like if he had gotten his girl and then.
Yeah, like if he
did
would have
nothing.
stayed with Nimue in that place.
Oh, and like
forever.
nothing.
Yeah.
Oh.
And if she wouldn't have
Wouldn't be
locked
much
her
of a
away, because
story.
after he
It
left,
wouldn't be much of a story.
yeah, after he left, the gates closed and you could never see Nimue again. And then I think that that's the reason he had nothing to lose after that. So
Yeah.
that's why he decided to go against her, and it was in revenge. But do you think that if he wouldn't have locked her away and wouldn't have been, if she wouldn't have hurt him so much, do you think he would have had his revenge, or do you think he just would have left it?
I think he would have left it, because, like, he didn't, I don't know, I feel like he did what was right, obviously, but I feel like he didn't want to, like, make anything bigger if, like, he just had her, because it was all about, like, getting her and, like, always, like, being with her, and he, like, had her, so I feel like he wouldn't have, like, gone against her.
He wouldn't have a reason to fight
Yeah,
if.
fight her.
Well, let's elaborate on number 3. Sorry for interrupting.
That's okay.
It says, what sexual desires or behaviors do the characters exhibit and why? Other feelings that are not being expressed. What is the nature of human relationship in this text?
Well, the most prevalent one would be Merlin and lady friend.
Yeah, of course.
And then, if I recall, there were some other like tensions between some like side characters.
Do you think, though, that, because it said what feelings were not expressed, do you think that Mab did care for Merlin in her own twisted way, or do you think she wasn't capable of loving anyone or caring about anyone? Because she cared about her son, that was Arthur and her son, and she loved him as a son, but do you think she ever saw Merlin in any sort of way like that, or just as a tool the entire time?
I think she objectified him most of the time.
I think she cared for him not as a person,
Mhm.
but as a weapon.
Yeah,
saw him as a weapon.
that's
Yeah.
I think that too.
Like,
There was definitely like, oh, I don't want that to be broken or like destroyed because it's mine and I need it.
Yeah.
But not
Yeah.
like
it was an object,
Yeah.
Yeah, but not.
Objectifying.
but not like, this is my son, I should protect him.
She sort of only loved him when she needed him.
Yeah.
That's like when he was like turning away and he was convincing
Yeah.
people, she was like, oh, I love you, I love you. She
But
was
the way
trying
she
to-
said it too, like she didn't really know it. She's like, "Oh, I love
Yeah.
you,"
Yeah.
sort of thing. So
I mean, it kind of shows the corruption of human relation. Like, if we're talking about how human relationships end the text, it's what do I want from you? What do I need from you? It's not how do I care about you when we're talking about specifically Mab and Merlin's relationship.
The only 2 relationships I saw that were like pure love, honestly, were between Arthur. Well, obviously it was with Nimue and Merlin because they both purely love each other. But at the same time, and watched the movie obviously. But one of the big things was I saw like the connection between Arthur and Merlin, which is why I think. Like, just a quick reference to one of the other questions, which is why I think somewhat Merlin would have gone back, is because there was a connection between him and Arthur. And I think that's why the human nature thing is if someone's in trouble that you really do care about, you're willing to give up that sort of thing.
but
You feel like he would have gone back to just to save Arthur? He would have gone out of like
Not
the
completely.
thing with Nimue?
I feel like he would have had to, obviously he would have thought about it real quick, just because I remember when he left, he was like, "Why didn't you tell me?" Because then he would have at least had to weigh odds.
What do you think about it, Kirk?
I think you greatly got it.
What do you think about the human relationships in the text?
With whom?
Number 3.
I think King Arthur is obsessed with Igraine, wife of the Lord of Cornwall. He goes to war with the Lord of Cornwall so that he can have Igraine. Merlin wants to stop the war and makes a deal with Uther. If Uther will end the war, Merlin will make Uther look like the Lord of Cornwall so that Uther can have sex with her. Uther does not keep his promise and keeps the Lord of Cornwall. Igraine becomes pregnant and has Arthur. The human relationships of Merlin are very impulsive. Characters take action without thinking everything through.
So you would say that some characters, excluding Merlin, all of their like emotions are more impulsive and
Yes.
less like driven by thought.
Yes.
And like you guys were saying earlier, when Merlin left Nimue to go save Arthur, he didn't even save her. I didn't see the point of that because he knew Arthur was dying, and he could sense that Arthur was going to die, and there was nothing he could do because he obviously didn't try anything to save him. So he knew that he was beyond saving. So this goes back to the human relations. Do you think the reason he went back is just so he could make that final connection so that Arthur wouldn't die by himself? Or do you think that was because remember he had Excalibur and he had to throw it back in the lake for him? Or do you think he went back because he knew Excalibur was a higher purpose and that he had to make sure no one else would find it?
That's the difference with this story and all the others. And the others, when they try to throw Excalibur back, they seem reluctant or they go back. And but
Merlin doesn't.
Merlin kind of seems angry when he does it. He spins and chucks it like he's trying to throw it to Mars. And he just doesn't.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I honestly think that he went back so he could make sure that Mordred was dead, and that when Nav came back, she didn't take Excalibur, even though she couldn't use it. It would be a loss to the good side, even if even if Mab took it and she couldn't use it.
I kind of think that he went back for Arthur because he is still half human, and that also ties back to the other question, like about Mab, that like since she's the half of him that doesn't care, that is able to detach, but then there's that human side of him that allows him to relate to everybody, and I think that his human side's a lot more dominant, so that's why he had to go.
I have a quick question. What did Mordred mean when he said the last thing I will do is die?
No, he was just. It was kind of like an arrogant thing, like I'm not gonna die today. I don't think it was like the last thing I'll do is die.
Well, like
He just didn't want to die.
Too, like he died, but like look about like him dying like stirred up so much thing. Like he died, but then think about everything that happened after he died. Like that like caused so much drama and like so many issues throughout the story. Like he died, but like after his death, like he had such an effect on Merlin and on Mob, like on everyone.
So in other words, his
So
legacy.
he died, but he like carried on. His death influenced everyone, even though he was gone.
I also think it was funny at the end. They emphasized that Mab couldn't save Mordred, and that King Arthur could, or Merlin couldn't save King Arthur. Like they might have been these like masterful, magical beings, but there's some parts of the human world that they could not interact with.
It always seems to be in like every sort of work of fiction that there's only, with all this magic, there's always certain things that you can't affect, or at least without like consequence, and usually that's death.
You have to have your Achilles heel.
Yeah, it's like in like all the movies, it's like, oh, you can't wish. You get like a genius, like, oh, you can't wish someone to be in love, or you can't wish someone to be dead, or in Harry Potter, it's like, oh, if you use a killing curse and you lose a bit of your soul, I think that's what they said. But it's just really interesting how there's always that sort of parallel in with all these stories.
There's always rules, even for those who